As the gantry is pulled back.
I am a Negro, and I'm very
But
proud
I
of it.
remember the feeling that it left.
The night that the ground war started, we were dug in holes inside of a berm that was actually right on the Kuwait border. And they was going to do they came in, they started popping holes in the berm wall where we were going to go through at. And they were going to do kind of a last-ditch effort here in the States to try to avoid the ground war, to see if he would surrender at that time. And I remember that night down in because the holes were stretched as far as you could see either way. That was actually the front line. So if you was in your hole, you were in friendly territory. If you stepped in front of it, you were in enemy territory. And the night that the ground war actually started, you could hear it. It was almost like a roar, because you could hear the guys, you know, the deep breaths and the excitement and everything that was going on, that it was on, that we were actually going in. And so when we got the word, get on your gear, it's time to go. They loaded us up in trucks, and I was actually in the second 5-ton truck that went through the border inside country. Our first mission when we got in there was the breaching of the minefield. You know, Saddam was known for all of his booby traps and his mines that he had laid out across the desert. And we pulled up, and just as far as you could see on top of the sand was these mines. And, you know, we come through and blast a strip down the middle, and we move out and we start crossing the minefield. I remember I had an AT-4, the hand grenades and all the extra rounds and stuff that you're supposed to carry. We got right in the middle of the minefield, and they give us the freeze sign and take a knee. And I can remember being 18 years old, sitting there on a knee with all these explosives strapped to my back, thinking this is probably not the best place. I'd much rather be on the other side of this thing. And, you know, as we moved out, you know, we'd heard all these stories and the intelligence that come back. You know, he had all these troops and all these mechanical vehicles, all this stuff, you know, and we actually got up there and we found he had plywood cutouts that were stuck in the ground up there. There was old cars with pipes shoved through the windows so they'd look like a tank from the air, and different things like that. You know, and so we moved in and we secured Iraqi positions right off the get-go there. And this was all within the first probably 12 hours of the ground war. I mean, it was a pretty fast pace. Everything was moving, kind of chewing the desert up and going. You know, Task Force Grizzly, and so we're moving forward, and that was the first firefight that I'd actually been involved in. And I remember when it was over, just scared, you know, like the adrenaline dump that came, you know, in the shaking, you know. And I remember sitting there, and this old sergeant major walks up to me, and he says, "How old are you, devil dog?" And I said, "Well, I'm 18, sergeant major." And he says, "You beat me by a year." And I said, "I don't understand." And he told me then, he said, "I was 19 in the jungles of Vietnam the first time I was shot at." And he said, "That's baptism by fire." He said, "That's something you're never going to forget." And those are very true words, very true.